these positive qualities,
Right.
like kindness and professionalism,
Yeah.
into this world of divorce mediation that can often be so emotionally charged.
Yeah, it's like, how do you balance being empathetic and supportive while still maintaining that neutral mediator role?
Right.
It must require some serious skill and sensitivity.
It's a delicate dance.
Yeah.
You're not there to take sides
Right.
or to tell people what to do.
Right.
You're there to facilitate communication,
Right.
to help them understand each other's perspectives and to guide them towards solutions that address everyone's needs.
Right. Especially if children are involved.
Especially if children are involved.
Yeah.
That adds a whole other layer of complexity.
I imagine it takes a lot of active listening too, right?
Absolutely.
Like picking up on those unspoken emotions and underlying tensions that might be driving the conflict.
A good mediator is attuned to not just what's being said,
Right.
but how it's being said.
Right.
They can identify those subtle cues
Yeah.
that might indicate, deeper issues or unresolved resentments.
Right. And then they can use that insight to gently steer the conversation in a more productive direction.
Exactly.
Help the couple unpack those deeper issues and find ways to move forward.
It's almost like they're helping people reframe their narrative.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing the divorce as this battle to be won or lost,
Right.
they're encouraged to view it as a process of, disentangling their lives.
Right.
In a way that minimizes harm and maximizes well-being for everyone involved.
It's a pretty powerful concept, but how does it actually work in practice?
Right.
What are some of the specific techniques or strategies that a mediator might use in these sessions?
Well, one common technique is called reframing.
Okay.
And it involves helping people shift their perspective on a particular issue.
Okay.
So, for example, instead of focusing on who's to blame for a financial problem,
Right.
the mediator might encourage the couple to look at the situation objectively and brainstorm solutions together.
So it's about shifting the focus from blame and accusation to problem solving and collaboration.
Exactly. Another technique is called active listening.
Okay.
And this involves not just hearing the words someone is saying,
Right.
but truly understanding the emotions and needs behind those words.
Yeah.
So the mediator might reflect back what they've heard to ensure everyone feels understood and validated.
It's about creating that safe space where people feel comfortable expressing their true feelings and concerns
Right.
without fear of judgment or attack.
Exactly. And that's crucial for building trust and rapport.
Right.
When people feel heard and respected, they're more likely to open up and engage in meaningful dialogue.
Which ultimately is the key to finding those mutually acceptable solutions.
Absolutely. And it's not just about finding any solution. It's about finding solutions that are fair, sustainable,
Right.
and that address the long-term well-being of everyone involved.
It's not just about dividing assets and signing papers.
Right.
It's about helping people navigate this major life transition with dignity and respect, setting them up for a healthier and happier future.
It makes me think about how we typically talk about divorce in our society.
Yeah.
It's often portrayed as this, negative, destructive event,
Right.
a sign of failure.
Yeah, like it's this big dramatic ending.
Exactly. But what if we started to view it differently?
Mm.
What if we saw it as an opportunity for growth and transformation?
Yeah.
A chance to redefine ourselves and create a new chapter in our lives.
It's like instead of focusing on the loss and the heartbreak, we could also acknowledge the potential for healing and new beginnings.
Exactly. And that's what's so compelling about this firm's approach.
Yeah.
By emphasizing compassion and collaborative problem solving,
Right.
they're essentially promoting a more positive and constructive way of navigating divorce.
And imagine the ripple effects that could have.
Yeah.
If more couples approached divorce with this mindset, wouldn't it lead to less conflict, less trauma,
Right.
and ultimately a healthier society?
It's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like they're challenging us to reimagine the entire divorce process.
And it all comes back to that initial observation about the website.
Right.
It's not just about legal services. It's about promoting a whole new way of thinking about divorce.
For sure.
But how does this approach actually play out in real life cases?
Well, that's where the client testimonial,
Yeah.
even though it's not directly related to divorce mediation, might offer some insights.
Right. Even though Teresa was dealing with a completely different legal matter,
Yeah.
her feedback still highlights certain values that likely permeate the firm's entire approach.
Exactly. And those values, kindness, reliability, professionalism.
Yeah.
They're not just empty words.
Right.
They can have a tangible impact on the client experience,
Right.
even in the emotionally charged context of divorce.
It's like if they bring that same level of care and attention to detail to their divorce mediation practice, it could potentially make a huge difference in helping clients navigate that difficult process.
Imagine feeling supported and understood during such a vulnerable time.
Yeah.
It can make all the difference in the world.
So it's not just about finding a legal solution. It's about finding a human solution.
Right.
A way to move forward with dignity, respect, and a sense of hope for the future.
And that's what makes this deep dive so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just about one law firm's approach. It's about exploring a potential paradigm shift in the way we approach divorce as a society.
And that brings us to the big question. Could this approach, this emphasis on compassion and collaboration, actually become a more widespread model for divorce?
Is it possible to shift our societal perceptions of divorce from a battleground to a journey of growth and transformation?
It's a question worth pondering.
And perhaps even more importantly.
Yeah, what would it take to make this approach to divorce more commonplace?
What's interesting to think about, because, as we've been discussing, Teresa's testimonial, while not about divorce, highlights kindness. And that's not usually the first word that comes to mind when you think about lawyers, is it?
Definitely not. Usually it's more like tough or aggressive.
Exactly. But her experience suggests that this firm prioritizes a different set of values.
Yeah.
And that can make a world of difference, especially in this emotionally sensitive area of family law.
It makes you think, if more law firms adopted this approach, this focus on compassion and client well-being, could we actually change the public perception of divorce?
It's a fascinating possibility because right now, divorce is often seen as this adversarial process.
Right.
This battle to be won or lost.
Yeah.
It can get really messy with people fighting over every last detail.
And it can be so damaging, not just for the couple themselves, but for any children involved. Yeah. Like, everyone gets caught in this web of conflict and resentment.
But imagine if more couples had access to a more collaborative and supportive process like the one offered by this firm.
Yeah, they could potentially work through their differences with less animosity.
Right.
Focus on finding solutions that benefit everyone, especially the kids.
It would be a huge shift.
Yeah.
It wouldn't just change individual experiences. It could actually impact our society's understanding of what divorce means.
Instead of being this symbol of failure and broken families, it could become an opportunity for growth and positive change.
It's almost like we're talking about a cultural revolution.
Yeah.
Where divorce is no longer viewed as the end of something,
right,
but rather as a transition.
Right, a new beginning.
A new beginning, exactly.
Yeah. It's a pretty inspiring thought, and it all stems from this one law firm's commitment to doing things differently.
It's a powerful example of how, even in a field as traditionally adversarial as law, there's room for compassion, innovation, and a more human-centered approach.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of divorce mediation, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought.
What if this approach, this emphasis on compassion and collaboration, wasn't just limited to divorce?
What if we could apply these principles to other areas of conflict in our lives, our communities, even on a global scale?
Could we create a world where understanding, empathy, and a commitment to finding common ground become the norm rather than the exception?
Food for thought, isn't it? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those